keeping consistent and not stopping. There's really not a hack. Just get a little bit done every single day. Every single person I've seen, any of my friends, any of my network, anyone who's successful just gets a little bit done every single day. You don't even got to work your butt off just get a little bit done every single day and make sure that's consistent. What I want to go through today, guys, okay, is not only, okay, just kind of ideology and structure, but I want to go through and have a full-on audit again of our current farm system. I want to go through every single piece, okay, to make sure we're on the same page in terms of how to use it and how to go ahead and scale large as well when we need to. What's important here, okay, is understanding each piece of the system. Okay, you're not going to be able to scale large if you're not understanding one portion of it. Why do we run the farm system? And why don't we just run the same single interest ads that you hear on YouTube and all this crazy stuff going on? Why don't we just do the simple ways that everyone seems to talk about, right? And in reality, guys, one of the biggest things you have to realize here is when you're building a business, you got to have a real infrastructure, and you don't want to just rely on a few audiences or a few ads having your entire budget. Okay, that's how you're going to wake up in the morning with terrible ROAS. That's how you're going to wake up in the morning panicking because your ads are just doing poorly that day. Or you'll have no actual consistency or predictability long term. The goal here is to genuinely build an ad infrastructure at first. So you're starting off with algorithmic targeting. Algorithmic targeting is our assortment of actual audiences and columns that are all based off of different specific principles. Now, this is different compared to what the peanut gallery would see on YouTube, right? Is because you're not just going to be targeting single interest. What you're doing here, okay, is we're actually targeting 11 audiences since they took away the affinity column. No longer 12, as we know, 11. Okay, with no more affinity column in the actual algorithmic targeting sheet. What we're doing here, though, is understanding a few different things about algorithmic targeting and why it works. We're using 3 different styles to go ahead and see what does best in our ad account at first. With that being said, we're not just doing random styles. We're not just doing single interest. We're not just stacking. We're putting 3 different styles, okay? You're going to try no narrow, narrow, as well as single interest, okay? The reason that we stagger and try different actual ideologies and different actual cuts of targeting is because every single ad account, every single product, and every single ad that you launch is going to have a different specific actual movement based off of the actual kind of first launch that you have. So you could have product A and product B, and you do the same exact targeting. You can see that on product A, single interest does better, but on product B, you're getting so much better results with narrowing. Okay. And that's one of the most important things you have to realize here is in the beginning stages, you need to test these things. Okay. And obviously test is the easy way out, right? To go ahead and say, oh, what do? You test. But in targeting, you're not only testing, you're validating what works best for your product. So you could spend your budget in the best way possible, in the best case scenario. Okay. So we're starting off with 11 audiences at $5 a piece here. And we're trying 3 different styles. And you're diversifying those 3 different styles evenly, not doing 8 narrow and then 2 no narrow and then 1 single interest. Okay, you're diversifying them evenly, and you could give that extra one toward the actual column that you want to go ahead and put an extra one on since there's only 11 here. Okay, but it should be even. It should not just be sporadic and random. Okay, now keep in mind also when we start to see performance in the algorithmic targeting, we're going to start to notice, okay, we're getting most of our sales from the magazine column, which happens to be a no narrow column. Okay, cool. We want to notice where most of our consistency is coming from. One of the biggest edges and things that you can have at this stage is actually understanding, hey, I'm seeing that no narrow is doing better for me. Okay, but I'm also noticing that no narrow is not doing well for me. Notice these points because the edge and the extra info that you have on your ad account before you actually scale forward is going to help you put your budget in a place where you're going to spend less money and get a better return. Let's go ahead and start to talk about expectations of what it looks like when we actually launch our algorithmic targeting campaign. I don't care how much stock you have. I don't care how many prototypes that you've built. Okay, it's about seeing what demand there is at the point of launch. That's what dictates our consistency as well as the first real week, right? That's what's going to dictate your longevity in the business. Don't be the guy, right, who has a product that you've been working on for 9 years straight, right? And you're so invested in it, right, to the point where if it doesn't work, you're going to go ahead and find another way to make it work. Now, we focus on demand and finding consistency, and this structure is an amazing way for us to go ahead and actually create that demand and see the demand off the bat because we're trying every nook and cranny of a specific niche. 11 columns across with all different actual ideologies and different actual keywords that go within. We're seeing what what corner of the niche likes our product the best in terms of where the demand is and where that demand is coming from. So we could double down our budget on those particular audiences and take it away from the actual audiences that suck. When we launch our algorithmic targeting campaigns, we are going to be following the 3-day rule here. Okay. Day 1, no view content, kill it. Day 2, no add to cart, kill it. Day 3, no purchase, kill it. Those are the 3 simple pieces of metrics that the actual product must follow to make it out of the 3-day rule. It becomes much more intricate, much more detailed, and much more KPI focused, key performance indicator, CTR, CPC, CPM, etc. focused after it leaves the 3-day rule. There is no way that you should actually let an audience or anything run past this window, okay? Because I've been using this window to determine if it's a winner or a freaking loser, and if I could scale and build a brand for years. And it works, and it's adapting to exactly what happens in the marketplace as well. Don't force audiences to pass rulings. The reason that we have systems and structure for every single piece, whether it's product research, your thumbnail, your landing page, your video, and your ads, is because it needs to follow timelessly and it needs to follow properly. If it does not follow, we will not scale, we will not move forward. When we achieve 25 sales, okay, or let's say when we achieve 1 sale, as we know, what do we do when we achieve our first sale, guys? What is the first thing we do when we achieve that first sale in algorithmic targeting? We dupe. Why do we dupe? We are duplicating the audience because every single audience or audience that you create with the different keywords in is going to have multiple different pockets of buyers and also pockets of people who are not going to buy. Ever notice on your actual Shopify store when some days you'll go an hour without sales, but then it's like you're getting 30 or 40 within like a 10-minute window? It's because it's finding pockets of buyers, okay? It's finding pockets of buyers and pockets of non-buyers. So if we're duplicating out an audience that has already proven to work, again, 3 to 5 times, we're increasing the odds of finding that same or more winning pockets in that 5 million size range anyway. Just keep in mind, ladies and gents, algorithmic targeting is based off of a 800K to 5 million potential audience size reach. That's our threshold. So duplicating, we're not going to be having a higher frequency of 2, showing our ad to people multiple times. We're going to be hitting new people in the audience because we're on such a low budget and we're duplicating over again, building an infrastructure, increasing the chances of an actual winning pocket, and creating a base of low budget ads that is going to nurture your ad account to get lower cost per acquisition, AKA keep your ROAS, your return on ad spend, higher because you're running an infrastructure of low budget ads. At 25 sales, okay, what are we doing here, guys? We're starting to remarket. We only start remarketing at 25 sales because at least, okay, when we start remarketing, there has to be some consistency going. You should not start remarketing when you're just testing products. Why am I going to go ahead and test product 2 when I know it's not a winner? I'm going to start remarketing for product 2 when I still got to market product 3. It doesn't make sense. We only start remarketing when we see real, true signs of consistency and demand in a product, and that's around 25 sales. But we're only starting off the remarketing at $1.50. We are not starting off at $5. We're starting off at $1.50 because these, more than anything, will need time to cook and run about a week straight before we start actually moderating it. On the contrary to our actual $5 audiences, we're looking for a 3-day window, okay, on how well these do. On remarketing, since it's a $1.50 budget, we're only going to be looking at it for maybe a week before we start making changes. Okay, we're looking at remarketing much different than the way that we look at our cold traffic. So keep that in mind. At 100 sales, you start your micro big bang. This is when it gets real, and this is what is one of the most consistent systems in the industry to date, especially when you're starting off and you don't want to go ahead and spend an arm and a leg on your ads, even though they're doing well. You'd still rather spend less. Micro Big Bang is custom audiences that are derived from your data that you've already received by doing all of this. Okay, what happens here is you take all of your actual custom audience data and you create 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% lookalikes. All these are, when I say percent, 1%, 2%, it's just a different version of lookalike based off the custom audience. So let's say we have a custom audience for purchase, initiate checkout, add to cart, view content, website visitors. Okay, we're using, each of these is known as an actual custom audience, right? We're using the past 180 days duration, not 365, always 180. It does better with the way that it creates the actual audience in the algorithm. Always 180, okay? Whether we're taking from purchase, initiate, checkout, add to cart, etc., we're always going to be taking at least 5 lookalikes from each custom. So purchase, we'll have 1% purchase, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. And we'll create all the way up to 10%, but we're only launching 1 through 5. The reason is because after Micro Big Bang does well, you now have another one to launch as well that's already created to add an even deeper infrastructure. It'll be around 100 audience or, 50 to 100 audiences. Okay. All on $1.50. What happens here, since we're running such low budget audiences, is that we're going to be forcing our pixel to learn how to actually convert at a low cost per acquisition, keep our ROAS higher, and to make us more money every single day. Okay. And this is why it's so important, because hey, we're not just doing this for revenue. We're doing this for freaking profit. Okay. And that's why this is so important here. Micro Big Bang. Okay. We run it for 8 days. Okay. The reason we run for 8 days and not 3 to 5 days like you would with the 3-day rule is because it's on $1.50 audience. You're not going to get sales on a lot of the audiences on day one because it only spent $1. Let the damn thing cook for 8 days. Let it cook. Okay. Your kryptonite is going to be letting things cook longer, especially if they show signs of life and great KPIs. Don't be the guy who kills audiences that show good signs of life early on in their low budgets. Okay. This is a 5 to 8 day slow cook. Okay. So on day 5, you could start trimming the fat and the outliers that suck compared to our KPI benchmarks, but you really should be letting it cook for around 5 to 8 days before you start making any drastic changes to the actual campaign structure. Through day 5 to day 8 is when we start killing. And when we say kill, okay, all we're doing here is we have our simple metrics. CPM, okay, should be between 20 to 30 bucks. CPC should be around, 60 to 80 cents. CTR should be around 1.8%. All these metrics are things that we want to look at and what we call our KPIs. And could be found in our KPI breakdown in University as well. It's literally just a bank or a key of how everything should be in terms of their metrics at a healthy stage. On day 5 to day 8, we start killing the audiences that aren't showing signs of having healthy metrics in our benchmark thresholds. Okay. But we only start doing that on day 5 to really forward. We're not doing that before, because guess what? What is inaccurate with low spend? Data is inaccurate with low spend. Therefore, we're not going to make dire changes or adjustments based off of low spend, okay, off of $1.50. We'll only make it after about 5 days straight of spending $1.50 to where there's actually some substantial spend there to where we can make an actual accurate prediction. With that being said, Micro Big Bang, you're going to be using the same exact copy and the same exact creative that you used in your highest and best performing creative in the Algorithmic campaign. Nothing changes here, ladies and gents. You're using the same exact everything. We're multi-purposing. The magic here is in the order of the operations. Okay. And that's why this works so well. When we see a profitable Micro Big Bang after around 5 to 8 days, we start to run what is called a Big Bang. It's the same exact thing, except it's a duplicated campaign of the same exact Micro Big Bang, but running on $5 instead of $1.50. The reason we do this is because before we go ahead and launch a big dire campaign, we're testing the waters with micro. We're also training the actual pixel to go ahead and get us lower cost per acquisition, so your margin actually stays higher. Why do we call it the farm system? Okay, let's talk about our infrastructure builds. Let's talk about our actual vertical scaling builds. Algorithmic targeting, infrastructure build. Duplicating, infrastructure build. Remarketing, infrastructure build. Dissection, infrastructure build. Micro Big Bang, infrastructure build. Macro Big Bang, infrastructure build. CBO, vertical scale build. The reason that we have so much infrastructure is the same reason that this freaking house has an infrastructure as well. Because without it, it'll all fall down. People on the internet are trying to convince people to go ahead and scale quick and scale aggressive and to do it now. It's not the way to do it. Build your infrastructures. And also, when you guys see people talking about different strategies and whatnot, listen, I'm not the only way that's right by any means. There's a million other ways to be right. But where do you see the most consistency of results coming from out of the entire industry? That's what you want to follow. Okay. So there's a million other half ways to be right, but let's focus on the way that's getting the most consistency and is getting people in the same position over and over again to do well. Okay. You can't build a business or a house of cards or a house or sand or anything without an infrastructure. Same thing with this. If you start running high budget CBO, you're just going to If you start running high budget CBO, you're literally just going to set yourself up for ad account bans and failure. When you slowly but surely launch audiences on small budgets and get to the point of getting larger and larger and larger spend, the ad account's not going to be freaked out. You're not going to get blocked as much. Everything we're doing here is focusing on actually building a real business and not just a 2-week pump and dump. Half the people will tell you to do it the opposite way because they just want you to go ahead and get one sale. And they're like, oh, they're off my back. No, I care if you build a business. The reason that we're doing this is because when we get to CBO, we have an infrastructure built. We're already consistent. So if CBO doesn't work, because I'm not telling you it's going to work every single time. Sometimes it won't work. Let's say CBO doesn't work. We could still bank on our big bang, our micro big bang, our dissection, our duplication, our algo, our remarketing. Okay, we already have a business running. This is just higher scale. Okay, that's the difference here. That's just higher scale. Okay, all of this is what's keeping my consistency in the business, right? And that's the difference maker. There's no way that I should be able to be selling that type of volume, not touching ads every day, unless I had a great system and a great infrastructure, right? Before that, I was panicking every day, right? On things that would go sporadic. Now we don't have to do that. But let's also realize that sometimes shit won't work. And if a CBO doesn't work, we still have our infrastructure keeping our consistency from a day-to-day basis, keeping the green and the profit there. Because even on a day where one of our launches don't work or something doesn't do well in the business, we still have that constant reoccurring consistency because of the infrastructure that we built 3 weeks prior and putting audiences into the CBO. The CBO is 5 to 8 of our most profitable audiences. Okay, $150 budget to start, 1-day click. The reason that we're using 1-day click in our CBO rather than 7-day click is because on audiences that we're spending more money and we're spending vertically, we're going to be doing 1-day click because that's the attribution window. The audiences that we know that we're going to be slow cooking longer and letting sit for longer, we want a longer attribution window, AKA 7-day window. 7 days window for everything that is a duplicated foundational audience. 1-day click for anything that's a vertical scale. After 3 to 5 days of running this, usually day 1 of CBO, I'm usually a little bit below. I usually lose a little bit of money or break even. And that's when it starts to optimize. And then once the actual the clock hits midnight, it recalibrates. And usually into day 2, I start off very profitable and it begins to become more and more profitable. So day 1, in my book, it's a wash with a CBO. I'm already set up to be losing money on day 1 of CBO or break even. I'm not planning to be profitable. I'm planning to be profitable day 2 and day 3. Okay. And then what I'm doing here is I'm increasing the budget by 20% every single day that I'm profitable. Okay. I'm only doing it when I'm profitable, not when I'm not profitable. Okay. Keep that in mind. Now, let's say 3 days in a row I'm profitable, 3 days in a row I'm increasing by 20%. Let's say on day 4, Lance, let's say day 4 or day 1, Lance launches his CBO. Day 1, he's unprofitable, but he knows that he's going to let that chill. Day 2, he's profitable. Okay, cool. Let's increase 20%. Day 3, profitable. Cool. Let's increase 20%. Day 4, though, we're still profitable. Okay, but we're not as profitable as we were yesterday, but we're still profitable. You slow cook on that day. Let it do its thing. Next day, oh, it recovered, profitable again. Next day, oh, big drop, huge drop. I was massively unprofitable this day. Okay, on a day where you become unprofitable one day, you slow cook it. Let it go into the next day. If you're still unprofitable, you revert to the previous budget in which the last time you were profitable was. Okay, that's how we run the CBO. It's simple, and this is on recording as well, so you'll also be able to go through and hear that again. Okay, but honestly, it's really not that tough to understand, right? Day 1, usually going to suck. Cool. It's okay. Day 2 is where I'm looking for the money. Okay. Day 2 is where I want to see that my profit. Day 3, I want to see some profit. Day 4, if I'm still profitable, but less profitable, it's cool. Let it slow cook. Okay. When I lose money though, on a day, I'm reverting to the previous day. That's how we audit the CBO on an active basis. Okay. It sounds all convoluted there, but in reality, no, if you slow that down, it's pretty freaking simple, right? Why it's called the farm system. Because every single time that we're running this with the CBO, let's say we're doing well, if you run a CBO maybe a month, 2 months, we need to go ahead and refresh the audiences. Let's say we're seeing a big dip in the ROAS. We'll turn off the audiences that suck from the last 5 to 7 days. What we'll do here is we'll refresh, okay, turn off the audiences that suck and go to our big bang, or our micro big bang and pull audiences that are still doing well and replace the audiences in the CBO with the audiences from micro or macro. This is going to make it so you're constantly having a refurbished CBO to constantly scale. And it's only going to be limited by the amount of audiences that you have, which means you have literally several hundred already running, doing well. Okay. And guess what? You still have another micro and another macro to run as well, because that's where that 5 to 10 comes from. Right. So massive recycling capabilities, maximum depth, maximum volume. And this enables you to not have that dead end feeling. Ever run half these guys from the peanut gallery systems and like, all right, what's next? I did everything. Now you have a non-dead end system to run and gain consistency with. Okay. And that's the magic there. That's the magic there. And that is the most important piece in understanding that we need in algorithmic targeting, ladies and gents. Algorithmic targeting. 2, duplication. 2, dissection and remarketing to micro, to big bang, to CBO. That is why we call it the actual farm system, because it ends up feeding the actual CBO, which is our large vertical scale vehicle. Okay. And CBO is ultimately what we go ahead and go large and go big with.